Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about the future of bed logging. Now, the inspiration of this video comes from DigDat32. He made a really good video on it. I will leave it linked in the video description below. You guys should really check that video out. But I kind of wanted to talk about it today to kind of figure out what the community thinks about this. Because this was something that I brought up a little bit way back when. Because if you look at the date of this post, it's February 20th, and Chad McKinney, CIG, replied to it March 5th. So this is not new, but this is basically what they said about the feature moving forward. And I think it obviously makes a lot of sense now because CIG is talking a lot about 1.0 and what the future of the game actually looks like. Okay. And I think it makes a lot of sense for the community to kind of set their expectations as early as possible. So I want to kind of go back before we get into what is actually said here in this reply to what bed logging actually is, what the issues around bed logging was, why it was changed, and why CIG might be adjusting it moving forward. Okay, so if you're not familiar with the game, not familiar with Star Citizen, bed logging is essentially a process where the player can log out of the game from a bed on their ship. And so when they log back in the game, they are in that bed on their ship instead of at a landing zone or at a space station. So if you take your ship and you fly to the forest on Microtech and you log out in the bed of your ship, when you log back into the game, you are in that same bed on your ship. Okay, this is a huge selling feature for many ships in the game. Okay, because it gives a utility for bedrooms and ship interiors, which is a major selling feature again of these larger, bigger ships. And I've said it many times in previous videos, reacting and reviewing ships, that having an exploration ship like the Carrack, like the Odyssey, like the Galaxy, even military ships like the Polaris and the Javelin, these ships have a lot of beds on them. So in larger star systems, let's say a player can group together on this large ship, they can get everything prepared and ready, they can log out, and the next day when they log back in, the entire org is on one ship ready to go. In my opinion, this is kind of a major selling feature because it allows you to plan ahead. It gives you that immersion of everybody being in this game simultaneously. Okay, so what are the issues with bed logging? Now, a couple patches ago, the primary issue with bed logging was essentially that players who were in combat would get in the bed of their ship and they would log out, essentially despawning their ship from the game and preventing attackers from boarding it or essentially engaging with that gameplay. Okay, and a lot of cargo haulers and whatnot did that to prevent themselves from getting pirated. Now, CIG doesn't want this, obviously, because it circumnavigates the type of gameplay that they want in the game, where it is this, open immersive universe where PvP is a possibility. Okay, the way the parts of the community and CIG saw it is that this issue needed to be fixed. And a couple of patches ago, their fix was to essentially do a couple of things in relation to bed logging, where if you are in combat, you cannot log out of the game in your ship's bed. Of course, you can still close down the game But if you do that, your ship will not despawn. It will stay in the game and your character will stay in the game. And if you do that, you're essentially handing your ship over to the pirates or potential attackers, because it will not despawn. You are not logged out. Okay, so a part of this is also pirates boarding your ship. So if there is other players on board of your ship, you also cannot log out. Now, this is kind of where it broke bed logging for a lot of people, because in large multi-crew ships, only the owner can log out on that ship, because the ship will essentially say, there are multiple people on your ship, you cannot log out right now. It recognizes that there are other players on your ship and says, you can't log out, they can't log out, nobody can log out. So the only way to log out or to bed log right now in the game currently is for you to be on your ship by yourself. That is obviously a problem. And at the time, CIG said that they would fix this and this wouldn't be the case permanently. So that kind of brings us to now, okay? And the questions surrounding this is how CIG is going to address bed logging in the future. And after I go through this, I kind of want to give you guys what I think CIG should do and kind of what I really see the problem being. Now, again, I don't know what CIG is thinking and I don't know what they're planning, but essentially, Chad McKinney said here, I've had lots of folks ping me, ask me to follow up on the main question here, okay? Which is fair, since I rolled into the topic to clarify a tangential question. We are looking at what we have now and the vision for 1.0, okay? For this feature and many others, the way bed logging works in the game isn't going to fit that vision. Okay, so that's kind of a really interesting blurb right there, because he says here they're looking on what they have now for 1.0. Okay, this is essentially all the features they want to have ready when 1.0 comes out. And in my estimation, logging and essentially the way that you interface with the game, logging in and out with server meshing and all this stuff, picking a server, all of that stuff is critical to a 1.0 release, whether that's beta or if it's the full commercial release. That is critical. Players need to be able to reliably log in and log out, and you need to have that as your cornerstone for the game, essentially. Okay, so they're looking at that for 1.0 to see what they actually want to have. In my personal opinion, it is very late in the game to try to rework that. Okay, the way bed logging works in the game isn't going to fit that vision. That is also kind of an interesting statement, because from my understanding, the way that works kind of has always been the plan for you to buy a ship and to be able to log out of the game through your ship. Again, like I said, this was a major selling feature for many people. And CIG knew that. CIG knows that many people buy these larger ships with beds in them so that when they play with their friends, they can log out instead of starting over at the landing zone or space station. They want to be able to persistently start off from where they are. Okay. But really, more fundamentally, bed logging itself doesn't entirely fit that vision. Okay. Again, this is a very bizarre response. Why does bed logging not fit the vision you have for 1.0 and the logging pipeline? In my opinion, it's kind of always been that way. it's always been the vision to be able to log out in your bed. So for CIG to turn around now, 10 years in, and say that no, actually we don't want bed logging is very strange to me. Okay. I don't want to overly speak to specifics now, of course, but what we want ultimately is more ambitious and fundamentally revisit what logging in, persistence, spawning, and everything around it. In this new world, we're going to have a drastically different game that has server meshing, persistent halves and hangers, player-created bases, multiple solar systems, and more. That said, because of all of that, it won't be something you'll see change in 3.23. On the road to SC 1.0, this is one of many things in the game that we're looking at to make sure it's hitting the mark for what the game needs and the vision that CL has. Again, this last part here is very odd to me because I've never heard of Chris Roberts speaking about anything other than bed logging when it comes to game logging. And again, 3.23, okay, we're assuming that 4.0 is at the end of this year with Pyro. Again, it looks like all of the dates that we have assumed for this year are getting pushed back because, you know, it is April 10th as of the recording of this video, and there is still no word on 3.23 PTU. And they're saying here in 1.0 they're radically changing the logging system with bed logging. Why? I don't know. So basically, they're saying that the implementation for combat logging, the solution that they put in place for combat logging, that kind of broke bed logging, that solution is not changing in 3.23. That's what they're saying here. Okay. And they are looking to fix that or revisit that in 1.0 so that that won't be an issue in 1.0. Okay. So what is the issue here? In my estimation, the issue here is that when you are on your ship and other players are also on your ship, you cannot log out because there are other players on your ship, and the game sees that as that those individuals are enemies boarding your ship. The game doesn't see that those players as members in your party. So in my opinion, a very easy way to fix this issue is to just create, finally, an organization system, a system where I can set roles for my ship with my friends. I can say that, you know, Timmy is the pilot, John is a gunner, Mark is an engineer, and these people are supposed to be on my ship right now, and they can log out on my ship right now. The game can recognize the members of my party and say, these players are supposed to be on this ship, these players are allowed to log out on this ship, and any other party that joins this ship, they are hostile. And if they are on the ship, these 3 other people cannot log out. In my opinion, that is the obvious solution to this problem. Because in that scenario, one, it would encourage CIG to get player permissions and organizational roles working in this game, which in my opinion is something that the community has been asking for a very long time now, and in my opinion should be a priority for 1.0. They're talking about what the game needs for 1.0. I think these types of org tools are what Star Citizen needs for 1.0. Okay, not an entire redesign of the logging system. Now, if CIG wants to announce to the community what their plans actually are, you know, I would have something different to say. But right now, they haven't really done that. They are not revealing what their plans are for this new logging system. So we can only guess what that is and what that looks like. Now, a lot of people are saying because silver meshing and Star Citizen is becoming more persistent, that the logging system might be more streamlined to where you essentially just start up wherever you are. Okay. But again, I have problems with that because that invalidates the necessity for having beds. Some people are also saying that maybe it is a way to, maybe beds are a way to rejuvenate your stamina. But again, I feel like that's too gamified. The way that the bed logging system works right now is very immersive, because when you log out, it's just like your player's going to sleep and you are going about your real life. When you log out the game, when you log back in, it is as if your player woke up. So it is incredibly immersive, in my opinion, to have the bed logging system the way it is now. If my player was just standing in the kitchen of their ship, which again, that has no functionality, that's a completely different topic. But if my character is just standing in the kitchen of their ship and I log out and I log back in and they're still standing there, that feels kind of weird. Now, that might be immersive in some circumstances, but I feel like in the game is still going on while this is happening. So if I was landed by an outpost or something and I logged out, there would have been a bunch of stuff happening at that outpost where I'm just kind of there frozen in time, right? It's a different story if I'm sleeping and the narrative is that your player character is sleeping while you're doing stuff in the real world. Again, that's just my opinion. I want to ultimately know what you guys think in the comments down below. We don't have any information from CIG about what this new system actually looks like. And, I'm a bit biased because I'm very used to the bed logging system. And I think the bed logging system right now makes sense. I don't see why CIG would need to change it. All they have to do to fix the issue, in my opinion, is enable permissions for your friend group, for your party. Let's say you're in a party. All of the people in the party is supposed to be on the ship. They can log out in the beds. Everyone who's not in the party is considered hostile. If they're on the ship, nobody can log out. I think that's a very simple solution to this problem. And I don't see why CIG wouldn't just implement something like that. They have already implemented systems like, if people are in your party, they're not trespassing on your ship. They already have that tech enabled in the game. Like right now, if you were to just walk on someone else's ship, it would say that you're trespassing. Because CIG has that technology to say, okay, this person is in your party, they're not trespassing on your ship, just apply that to the bed logging system. This person is in your party, they're not trespassing on your ship, so they have permission to log out. Very simple. Again, I'm not a game developer. I don't know how difficult or easy that would be to implement, but to me, that seems like the solution. That's the solution that I would implement, and not try to just rework everything just yet. Again, I don't know what they have planned for silver meshing and all this stuff behind the scenes. It's up to them to share that information with us. So I know this was just kind of like an out there video. I like talking about this stuff. Again, I'm a 3D crafting channel. I want to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. As a community that we talk about all this stuff, so I want to hear from you guys. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me here in today's video. And like I always say at the end of these videos, you guys like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Salute.